I think in the initial remarks, I had touched some points in my opening inaugural address. The topic today on this panel is need of development financial institutions. I think historical perspective has been given by Mr. Shriram, and Nikhilji also touched about some aspects. What I think is everybody agrees that we need the development financial institutions, and they were working on a very good premise. They were catering to a strong need of our one segments, that was infrastructure project, long gestation period projects, and they were giving the term loan, initial loan that was required for any success of any project. And in 2004, what happened was that working committee said, the RBI, ki these issues which are being tackled by the DFIs with regard to all the issues with sectoral focus, then geographical focus, etc., and technical evaluation capacity that the DFIs have at their end. They were specific sector, they were dealing with specific sectors, and they had created good technical evaluation team which could evaluate project. As Mr. Vinod Jain also mentioned, that ultimately the failure of many of the project at the commercial bank is because there are no proper evaluation capability at the commercial bank. Commercial bank at present have only financial evaluation capabilities, and they depend on outside help with regard to various technical feasibility, return on equity, all those, how those projects will be successful. That in-house capability is not there in the commercial banks, etc. So these DFIs had developed over a period of time that capability, and there was an important factor with regard to liquidity mismatch. That also has been mentioned, because commercial banks are depending upon deposits of small deposits, which can be at a call notice, can be asked by the consumers or the depositors. And the project success of a long-term infrastructure project requires there is a different timeline. So there is a liquidity mismatch. But when these were discontinued in 2004, after 2004, it was said that these capabilities have been acquired by the commercial bank. At the same time, what DFIs were doing by that time was, from, as you mentioned, Mr. Shriram, from 2017 to 2001, they were financing, their financing was to the tune of 50%. From 110 to, they were financing infrastructure project to the tune of 50%. But they had accumulated lot of bad loans, and there were some problems with regard to NPAs and other things which had accumulated into DFIs, and the regulators, etc., thought that we don't need, and commercial bank can do with these kind of activity. But ultimately, instead of solving those problems of DFIs, what happened was the same problem is now carried to the commercial bank. We have large NPAs in the commercial banks, and the problem with the DFIs has not been solved by just closing them. And there has been a gap, still there is a big gap in the requirement of the fund. That shows in the, Mr. Arun Jaitley in his remarks had said that there is a gap of around $526 billion of funding by 2040 that we have to fill. So without DFIs, this gap will not be fulfilled. That's very important. The issue is why there is no now. I think there is no question about we need DFIs, but how that problem, what is the problem? What are the challenges of DFI that we have to look into? The biggest, what led to the failures or problems in the DFI? The biggest problem was, as you mentioned, that their requirement of funding requirement if they have to compete in the market for deposits, the market rate of interest, if they go for borrowing at the market rate of interest at a competitive rate, they will not be, their life will not be sustainable. That's an important part. And if government goes for a bond issue as a solution for the requirement of funds, the important thing is the government will have to look into aspects like tax concessions, or earlier they were allowed, investment into DFI bonds was allowed in the form of SLR. These are important issues that had, and there was a sovereign guarantee, almost a sovereign guarantee on the DFIs. Therefore, they could borrow at the lower rate of interest. So that's important aspect for the success of DFI, is that these bonds have some benefit. They have a competitive edge in getting funds at a lower rate than the commercial banks. Then only they will be able to lend into the long gestation period. And unless this basic requirement of any project is, if it is fulfilled by the DFI, then the whole success of the project will also be ensured. And majority of the then the commercial bank, etc., which are better equipped to lend for the working capital, etc., they can go focus on that, and they can these DFIs can focus on project initial lending. That way, the success of the project will also be ensured. Another challenge that I think at the DFI is what you have mentioned, is the this market failure, because they have a social obligation which is fulfilled by the DFI, that is not quantifiable. That cannot be quantified into the working of the DFIs, and therefore that leads to their market failure. This issue has also to be tackled at the government level or at the policy level. But ultimately, I think DFIs are required. Just closing them has not met the challenge of NPAs and other problems which had generated into the DFIs, and ultimately those problems have spilled over to the commercial banks, and government has to go for some steps to set up this, fill this gap. And I think from this debate today, or from this conclave, it can be one of the major takeaway that we ask for, that the government should look into this matter of again establishing this DFIs. And there are state level institutions definitely, but neither they have the resource at their end, or they require complete revamp. All state finance corporations, etc., are neither working efficiently, neither they have resources, nor they are fulfilling any of the objective of development of these products at the state level. So we need these institutions at the center level. We have to find out a means that the social obligation fulfilled by these institutions, how it can be incorporated into their commercial decisions, and how much hand-holding the government can take for them, so that they become viable and their access to capital resources at a competitive and lower level to the commercial bank. That's very important factor that we have to look into.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Gopalji, you mentioned in your opening remarks about certain, again, on the cost of capital and how we can reduce the cost of deposits. What would you believe could be the regulatory interventions, or even the legislative interventions, both from the banking regulator, or both from the government, or even from some of the, sorry, it's a bit of a broad question, but even from some of the state assemblies, in order to lower the cost of capital, in terms of lower the cost of deposits, or even in terms of making the giving developmental banks the ability to raise lower cost of capital. So what could you think could be some of these interventions?
I did mention 2 or 3 issues. One is that the tax concession can be there, that is given to some specific bonds. Another was allowing banks to invest into these bonds, as taking it into the list of SLR. The third important factor that I would like to pinpoint here, flag off, is the issue of sovereign guarantee, because there is a misconception in the current scenario that every financial institution, there is a sovereign guarantee of depositors. That's not the real case. And if you go into our banking sector, there is one major gap in the whole financial ecosystem is FRDI, Financial Resolution and Deposit Insurance. That government tried to tackle it, but it is now at present held up because there is a perception in the general public that every deposit is guaranteed by the government, every financial institutions is will be bailed out by the government, which is not actually the case. The truth is very little deposits are insured. So what happens is that if we create a category of a DFI, this issue and very categorically give sovereign guarantee to specifically this segment of resources or deposit with this case, and bring transparency into other this resolution mechanism, financial resolution and deposit insurance mechanism, then they will have access to a better low cost resources with resources at a lower rate of interest. And others, whoever have less security with regard to sovereign guarantee, or whoever institutions are taking money from the public without any sovereign guarantee or major insurance cost, they will have to buy, they have to get the resources at a higher rate of interest. So this can be another mechanism. The person who take higher risk has to pay, will get a higher interest on his deposit. And there can be transparency brought into this thing. And on the deposit side, there can be insurance that any institution can provide a basic insurance up to a certain level and higher insurance that can be taken at a higher cost. So I think this issue of sovereign guarantee, financial resolution, deposit insurance, if you match them and segregate institutions into various segments, NBFC, which have no government funding or which are completely no security for the people, they have a higher cost of funding. So this can be one way which we can segregate rate of available resources to the institution.
Great. Also, just as a follow-on to that question, I mean, currently, of course, we are looking at the Indian market to raise capital in terms of being able to, as a source of capital for the DFIs. Now, if we expand that a bit and look at the global markets, because if you see the world is, and there are, say, Scandinavian countries who are also allies of India, or even certain other countries such as Japan, which is already doing a lot of developmental funding in India, Delhi Metro being a prime example. In Mumbai, they'll be doing a few other projects in my state of Maharashtra. But can you think we can create the enabling mechanism wherein, say, Scandinavian countries or even some of the East Asian countries, where their expected cost of, or rather expected rate of return might be in the low single digits, and even with a hedge, we can, and we also have with some of these countries a large amount of exports. So even with a hedge, the cost could still be in single digits. Do you think we can create the mechanism to raise money in the global markets for DFIs?
Yes, definitely. I give you one important example. There was a difference between the Andhra government and the central government. Andhra government wanted 90% of their expenditure or support from the central government, and central government was ready to give 60%. And then it was decided between the state and the center that the 30% resource gap will be filled from external sources. And for that, the guarantee will be given by, it was routed through NABARD, and the guarantee for that repayment was given by the central government, and state government did not have to bear that burden, cost, or that guarantee issue. So this external support or external loans, etc., can also be routed through this. And central government has a better sovereign guarantee position internationally. So I think better than the state government, we can have access of cheap resources from internationally also. This can also, and we have a very clear example where NABARD was put in by the central government, that 30% will be borrowed by NABARD and its guarantee will be given by the center, and finally financing will go to the state of Andhra Pradesh. I would like to
Pradesh.
mention on this, this is the gap that we are talking of. Because once you take consultant on any outside consultation, there is no accountability in the later stages. Accountability issue comes up because accountability is not able, you are not able to fix the accountability at that point, and therefore DFIs can have a specific technical evaluation team for particular areas. I would like to just mention what Anilji said, that if you have sectoral focus on DFIs, there is a larger risk of concentration of risk issue is also there. If you have particular DFI only dealing with one particular sector, there is a issue of concentration of risk. And when you are doing a financing of multiple sectoral project, you distribute the risk and overcome the cycle. This is also we have to look into this
That
matter.
is for you to examine as economists.
Definitely your suggestions are good for looking into the issues, and I think we have to have a developed capital market. Ultimately risk capital will be provided by the individual who are investing through the capital market in the share capital only. Otherwise either promoters have to come up, because if you come up with an institution only to finance this risk capital, ultimately that is a debt capital only. So we have to have a better the depth in the capital market, that I can think of. Other issue, definitely if you have suggestion, it is not the topic of this panel, but if you have any suggestion there, definitely government will look into it. Last, I would like to mention on the DFI, one important point is that we had talked about social returns compared to private returns. And ultimately, unless we find out a methodology of internalizing the social returns, whether it is environmental cost or whether it is infrastructure development cost or quality of life, we need to have some mechanism to internalize this social returns. Otherwise, our project evaluation or working of the commercial entities will be difficult, and market allocation of resources will not take into consideration into this efficiency. So if for going ahead for setting for the need of DFI, we would have to work out in a model where we can internalize this social returns into the operations of these banks.